New York Times runs a broadside against the Constitution. And I'm going to read it to you. They say that the Constitution has seen better days. Sure, it's the nation's founding document and sacred text. This is written by some creature called Adam Liptak. I don't know who he is, but I can only assume that his ancestors fled the Tsar of Russia or some other area in the Pale of Settlement. They fled specifically so that they would be protected by the U.S. Constitution, and now their subterranean grandson, Adam Liptak, is doing the bidding of the petty dictator by saying the Constitution has seen better days, and it's the oldest written national constitution still in force, but its influence is waning. They say that the Constitution is old and that it's time to move on. And they go to certain other subterraneans in the legal profession. They go to professors, don't you know, at various universities who tell us that the Constitution has seen better days. In an interview, somebody by the name of Professor Law, unto itself that's a joke, I don't know who that creature might be, Professor Law identified a central reason for the trend against the U.S. Constitution. And he says the availability of newer, sexier, and more powerful operating systems in the constitutional marketplace. The jerk says nobody wants to copy Windows 3.1, he said in a television interview. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, allegedly of the U.S. Supreme Court, but really a subterranean from the ACLU, said that to the Egyptians, I would not look to the U.S. Constitution if I were drafting a Constitution in the year 2012. She recommended instead the Constitution of South Africa. The rights guaranteed by the American Constitution are, by international standards, frozen in amber, says one of these left-wing fanatics. As somebody by the name of Sanford Levinson wrote, whoever the heck he might be, another one who no doubt had ancestors who fled the Tsar of Russia, but now that he's awakened to the greatest freedom in the history of the world, Levinson, protected by a tenure system, protected by the Constitution, wrote a paper called Our Undemocratic Constitution. And this creature Levinson wrote, the U.S. Constitution is the most difficult to amend of any constitution currently existing in the world today. Parenthesis, Yugoslavia used to hold that title, but Yugoslavia did not work out. Then he says, other nations routinely trade in their constitutions wholesale, replacing them on average every 19 years. He says, the Constitution is out of step. I'm going back now to the other subterranean, Adam Liptak of the allegedly of the New York Times, saying that the U.S. Constitution is out of step with the rest of the world in failing to protect. Listen to this. Here comes the punchline. Boys and girls, please stop. Listen to why they're attacking the Constitution. But the U.S. Constitution, he writes, is out of step with the rest of the world in failing to protect, at least in so many words, a right to travel, the presumption of innocence, and entitlement to food, education, and health care. In other words, because the U.S. Constitution does not guarantee a socialist or communist view of the world, it is therefore useless. They then go on to say that it protects the right to bear arms, and that's no good. It says only 2% of the world's constitutions protect, as the Second Amendment does, a right to bear arms. Do you have any idea what is going on here? Do you have any idea that we have a Leninist, power-mad Leninist in the White House, Barack Obama? He has very powerful friends in the Socialist International Movement, such as those at the Old York Times, a well-known Stalinist front newspaper going back to the 1930s. It's always been Stalinist. And even on the Supreme Court, they want the Constitution to be rewritten.